Hello loves, and welcome to an episode of Taste and See, where we try to find our way around the kitchen as we taste and see that the Lord is good. Now today we are doing a breakfast spinach, egg, and cheese omelet. Without further ado, let's get started. All right, so here are the ingredients. First, you're gonna need a bag of spinach, some cheddar cheese, mild or regular, whatever you prefer, some salt, pepper. Italian seasoning is optional. You'll need eggs, of course, and then you can either use butter or extra virgin olive oil. You'll also need a skillet, fork, knife, spatula, and a plate. Now, when it comes to cooking, you first off want to make sure that you are health conscious. COVID has taught us a lot. So first off, make sure you always wash your hands. And I mean thoroughly. Like at least take about 20 seconds to make sure you get them good and clean, because you wouldn't want someone else messing with your food without clean hands. Next up, you're also going to need a bowl or some type of Tupperware container, anything that you can use to mix your ingredients. So as we start off, we're starting out with prep. First, we're going to prep our spinach, and then we're going to prep our eggs. Now, this is before we move anywhere toward the stove. When it comes to your spinach prep, you can typically get about 3 to 4 omelets out of one spinach bag. Unless you're like a spinach fiend and you absolutely love spinach, you may need more than one bag. Usually people would take one whole bag and cook it for one omelet, but I typically like to get about 3 omelets out of one spinach bag. Now, once we are done preparing our spinach, you always want to make sure that you rinse and wash it out. Now, I don't know about you guys, but some of these bags say that spinach is already pre-prepared, it's already ready to go, it's already been rinsed, but just to be safe, you never want to trust that anyone has thoroughly rinsed it as you have. And plus, even if they did thoroughly rinse it, there's always some type of critters that seem to linger behind in some of the vegetables. So always make sure, just like you're washing your hands, that you also wash your vegetables. Now, as you complete washing your spinach, you're going to set that aside. And then next up, we're going to work on our eggs. Now, this is the time where you'll grab your seasonings, your eggs, and you'll get everything ready. Typically, with omelets, you can use 2 to 3 eggs. At this point in time, all I have are 2 eggs left in my carton. But if you want a more thicker omelet, or you just need a little bit more protein in your diet, 3 eggs would definitely suffice. You're going to crack 1 egg, add it to the mixing bowl, and then you're going to crack the other egg and add it to the mixing bowl. For seasonings, I like to add my seasoning while I'm mixing, and so I will typically use a pepper, some type of salt. I didn't have regular salt at the moment, and so I chose to use garlic salt, which is perfectly fine, and it gives it a little bit of a kick. And then I personally love Italian seasoning. I don't know if I'm one of those people that puts it on everything, but I'm pretty sure I'm one of those people that puts it on everything. So when it comes to my eggs, anything, I love to add Italian seasoning. Next up, we're going to beat the eggs. And no, I don't mean like hit them with your hand. Typically, if you use a fork, you're gonna mix your eggs very well. Make sure that all of the ingredients are added, make sure that everything blends, and then just make sure it's not runny. Next up, we're going to turn on the stove, and you typically want to have the fire or the temperature between medium and low when you first get started. Now, this is where your options come in. Typically, I do use butter when I make my omelets, but first I'm going to cook the spinach. And so in order to prepare the spinach, I'm going to take a cap full of extra virgin olive oil, which is about a teaspoon, and I'm going to make sure that it's evenly distributed across the entire pan. While the olive oil heats for a minute, remember that it is on low, we're gonna go ahead and add our spinach in. Now, spinach can take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes to cook. It cooks really quickly and it cooks all the way down, which is why you really don't know how much you need. Some people do use the whole bag for one omelet, but just to stretch our resources, I'm gonna go ahead and just use what I've already portioned out. I like to add my seasonings while my food is cooking, and so I'm going to add my garlic salt as well as my pepper, which is what I added to my eggs when I mixed them also. And then I'm just going to allow the spinach to cook down as it pleases. Now, I don't know what it is about spinach, but when it cooks down, it's like nothing. Like there's really not a lot in there. But this is gonna be the perfect amount for our perfect omelet. While the spinach is cooking, I do like to just use my fork and just kind of, spread it across the pan. Make sure that all of the leaves are evenly distributed in the oil. All of them are getting the equal amount of heat that they need in order to cook down. And then also it just, psychologically makes me think it's moving quicker when in reality it's gonna cook at its own time. Another way to kind of speed up cooking of spinach, you can always turn the heat up, but then you just want to make sure that you're not burning the pan, you're not burning the spinach, and you're not burning the oil because it can leave a really bad smell. Okay, now as the spinach cooks, I am now turning my eye down to low, and I'm going to make sure that all that spinach is returned back to the bowl that I originally prepped it in. This is going to keep your food organized. This is going to cut down on the dishes that you have to wash when you're done eating. And it's also just going to allow the spinach to drain just a little bit while you prepare your eggs. Now, as you see here, I had a hard time getting these little leaves of spinach out of this skillet. For some reason, they just did not want to come. But eventually we were able to get it done and we moved on to our eggs. Now, to prepare your eggs, you have an option at this choice. You can use the oil that was originally in the pan, or this is where you can use butter. You can either add butter to the pan, just a little bit, or you can just add a little bit of butter on top of the olive oil. I just chose to use the olive oil that was originally in the pan just to cut down on time and dishes. You're going to add the egg contents into the skillet. I turn my fire up just a little bit, so back to that medium setting, and then we're gonna let the eggs cook down. Now, just like spinach, eggs do cook really quickly as well. And a good way to tell that an egg is cooking, around the edges, you'll typically see it kind of fluff up. It's gonna, get a little like fluffy. Honestly, I don't know how else to explain it. If you've never cooked eggs before, a good way to test if it's ready is to make sure that none of the egg is still runny. And so here you'll just see that I kind of lift up the pan just to make sure that it's not sticking to the edges. I'll use my fork or my spatula to make sure that all of the egg content is getting cooked evenly. And then I'll just kind of spread some of the egg around the outside of the pan to help with the runniness in the middle. Just because some stoves get more heat on one side versus the other, so you just want to make sure that all sides are cooked evenly. Now this is where your butter would have came in handy. If I would have added butter to the skillet, then it probably wouldn't have stuck as much on the sides. But no worries, we're still able to get the perfect shape and the perfect omelet. It's just gonna look a little tattered on the edges while we cook it. But I guarantee you that at the end, it's gonna come together beautifully. Now that the egg is cooked and the sides are no longer sticking to the bottom of the skillet, this is when we're going to add in our spinach. Now I just take the spinach from the bowl, add it into the egg right there in the middle. I'm gonna grab my cheese, I like mild cheddar, and I'm just gonna add that also right into the middle of the omelet. And then we're going to fold. Now, I like to fold it in threes. A lot of people will do it in twos and then cut it in half, so it kind of looks like, two pizza pies. But folding it in threes actually allows you to have so much more content on the inside, and it just tastes so much better. So I struggle with folding omelets. So if you're like me, then you can use your fork. You want to fold it halfway to the middle, and then from the middle, you want to fold the middle over so that you can make a tri-fold. Then you literally have the perfect omelet. By folding it in a tri-fold, you're able to allow the cheese to evenly distribute. Now, you want to let that sit for about, I'd say, 1 more minute, and then you're ready to transfer that excellent looking omelet to your plate for breakfast. So, there you have it, guys. If you are interested in preparing your own omelet, now you have all the tools necessary to make it happen. I'm so proud of you. And comment below and let me know what you guys think and how your omelets turned out. Simple enough, right? Now, it's so funny because previously I hated eggs. I literally grew up, you couldn't pay me to eat eggs. Like anything that had eggs in it or on it, my parents had to fool me to get me to eat it, which is crazy because now it's like my body just craves eggs. But even for those who are beginner cooks, it's a really simple recipe. It's very tasty, it's packed with protein, and it's just a great way to get your day started. But thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Taste and See. We will see you next week. Bye.